That single notification flashed across my screen at 11:47 p.m., just minutes before my birthday officially ended. My own mother, commenting on my Facebook post, managed to rewrite 30 years of history, casually forgetting the one date that defined my existence. The glowing text felt like a physical blow in the dim room, the silence of my apartment amplifying the disbelief that twisted in my gut. I stared at the words, "Your birthday's in October, sweetie," as if they held some impossible truth. 30 years. 30 years of the same date on every cake, every driver's license, every important document. November 14th had always been my birthday. Nothing about it had ever changed. Yet, my own mother couldn't remember. That comment sat there beneath photos of me laughing with friends at an Italian restaurant. We'd clinked glasses, shared stories, and Chloe had even brought tiramisu with a candle. Everyone sang off-key, and I remember feeling genuinely happy, surrounded by people who actually showed up. My thumb hovered over the reply button. A petty part of me wanted to unleash every bit of the hollow ache that had settled in my chest throughout the day. No call, no text, no acknowledgement that I'd been on this planet for 3 decades. Instead, I typed, "It's November, Margaret." Same date for 30 years. Then, I just set my phone face down and tried to sleep. Morning exploded into chaos. My simple comment had sparked a firestorm. Relatives I barely spoke to suddenly weighed in. Aunt Martha wrote 3 paragraphs about family unity. Cousins I hadn't seen since high school were now relationship experts in my comments section. My phone buzzed relentlessly with notifications from people who'd never bothered to remember my birthday in the first place. Margaret called at 7:15 a.m. I let it go to voicemail. Again at 7:22. Voicemail. The third call at 7:30, and I finally picked up. "How could you embarrass me like that?" Her voice was sharp, cutting. No apology, no acknowledgement of her mistake, just immediate offense that I dared to correct her publicly. "You commented on my public post," I said, my coffee growing cold in my hand. I replied publicly. "You made me look like a terrible mother." The laugh that escaped me was bitter. "I didn't have to make you look like anything, Mom. You forgot my birthday. That's not on me. I've been busy. Your father's been sick, and I've had so much on my mind. You know how stressed I've been. Everyone's busy, Mom." I set my coffee mug down harder than necessary. Chloe worked 60-hour weeks and still took me to dinner. Maya just had a baby and sent me flowers. People who actually care find the time. The silence stretched so long I checked if the call had dropped. "I can't believe you're being this petty over one mistake." Her voice shifted to that familiar victim tone. "After everything I've done for you. What exactly have you done for me recently?" The question came out sharper than I intended, but I didn't take it back. "Because from where I'm sitting, I've spent the last 5 years watching you pour all your attention into Olivia and her perfect life, while treating me like an afterthought. Olivia, my younger sister, the one who could do no wrong. The one whose birthday, October 8th, Margaret had never once forgotten. Not in 27 years. "That's not fair," Margaret said, but her voice wavered. "You flew to Denver for Olivia's birthday last year. You were there for a week, helped her throw a party for 50 people. You posted about it constantly. My birthday? You sent a text at 9 p.m. saying HBD with a cake emoji. You explained you were dealing with. You're always dealing with something when it comes to me." The words tumbled out now, years of them backed up behind a dam that had finally broken. "But you're never too busy for Olivia. Never too stressed to remember her kids' school events, or her work promotions, or what kind of flowers she likes. Olivia needs more support right now. She's going through a difficult time with a divorce. She's been going through a difficult time for 3 years. Meanwhile, I got promoted to senior designer last month, and you didn't even congratulate me. I bought my first house in August, and you haven't visited once. You don't know what's happening in my life because you've never bothered to ask. Margaret's breathing went shallow. I didn't raise you to be this selfish. And I didn't think you'd raised me to be invisible. But here we are. I ended the call. My hands were shaking. 30 years of being the daughter who didn't quite measure up had crystallized into this single moment. A forgotten birthday. A wrong month. A public comment that exposed what I'd been pretending not to notice for years. The family text thread exploded within the hour. My father, David, sent a message asking me to call Margaret and apologize. Olivia posted a long paragraph about how hurt Mom was and how I should be ashamed of causing family drama over something so small. Aunt Martha shared a quote about forgiveness that probably came from a greeting card. Nobody mentioned that my birthday had been forgotten in the first place. I muted the thread and went to work. My desk was covered in cards from coworkers. Emily had brought cupcakes. The design team had chipped in for a gift card to my favorite bookstore. These people remembered. These people cared enough to acknowledge that I existed. Margaret showed up at my office at 3 p.m. The receptionist called my extension, voice uncertain. Your mother's here? She doesn't have an appointment, but she's insisting. Send her back. She appeared in my doorway, looking smaller than I remembered. Her hair had more gray. The lines around her mouth had deepened. She was holding a bakery box, and something about the defeated slope of her shoulders made my chest tighten. I brought cake, she said. Chocolate, your favorite. Olivia's favorite is chocolate, I said quietly. Mine's lemon. She looked at the box like it had betrayed her, then set it on the edge of my desk and sat down in the client chair. I don't know what happened. You forgot my birthday. Before that, she was picking at her thumbnail, a nervous habit from my childhood. I don't know when I stopped paying attention to you. It wasn't deliberate. I never meant to make you feel invisible, but I do. My voice cracked despite my best effort to keep it steady. I have for years, Mom. You just never noticed because you were too busy looking at Olivia. She needed me more. Maybe. But I needed you, too. I still need you. I pulled a tissue from the box on my desk, but I didn't cry. I was done crying over this. I needed you to remember the month I was born. That's such a low bar, and you couldn't clear it. Margaret's eyes were wet. I'm sorry. Are you? Or are you sorry I embarrassed you in front of the family? Both. She said it so quietly I almost missed it. I'm sorry I forgot. I'm sorry I haven't been paying attention. I'm sorry I let you feel like you didn't matter. She wiped her face with the back of her hand. And yes, I'm sorry you called me out publicly, but I deserved it. That admission hung in the air between us. Outside my office, phones rang, keyboards clattered. Normal office sounds on a normal Tuesday afternoon. But inside this small room, something fundamental had shifted. I can't keep doing this, I said. I can't keep being the daughter you forget about until I make a scene. I deserve better than that. You do. She nodded, and the gesture looked like it cost her something. Tell me how to fix this. Start by learning what month my birthday is in. November 14th. She said it firmly, like she was committing it to memory through sheer force of will. November 14th, 1994. Same date for 30 years. That's a start. I leaned back in my chair, suddenly exhausted. But it's going to take more than remembering one date. You need to actually be present in my life. Not just when it's convenient. Not just when Olivia is doing fine and doesn't need you all the time. I want to do that. She reached across the desk like she might take my hand, then seemed to think better of it. I know I can't fix 30 years of getting it wrong in one conversation, but I'd like to try. Trying means showing up, I said. It means calling just to talk, not because you need something. It means asking about my life and actually listening to the answers. It means treating my accomplishments like they matter as much as Olivia's. Your promotion. She looked stricken. Senior designer. I saw your post about it, and I meant to call, but then Olivia's daughter had that school play, and You just forgot about me again. I finished the sentence because watching her fumble for excuses was too painful. That's the pattern, Mom. Something with Olivia always takes priority. I'll do better. She said it with such conviction that I almost believed her. Almost. I need you to understand something. I met her eyes directly. I'm done begging for your attention. I'm done feeling guilty for wanting my own mother to remember basic facts about my life. If you can't prioritize our relationship, then we don't really have one. Her face crumpled. You're my daughter. Then act like it matters. She left 20 minutes later, taking the chocolate cake with her. The conversation had been exhausting in ways I couldn't quite articulate. Setting boundaries felt like pushing a boulder uphill while someone kept adding weight. But I'd said what needed saying. The rest was up to her. The family text thread had grown to 127 unread messages by the time I got home that evening. I scrolled through them with a glass of wine in hand. Most were variations on the same theme: I was being dramatic, unfair, hurtful. Olivia had written several essays about family loyalty and how I was tearing everyone apart. Aunt Martha kept posting inspirational quotes about grace and mercy. My father, David, was conspicuously silent after his initial message. Then I found one from my cousin, Ashley, the black sheep of the family. The one who had moved across the country and only came back for funerals. Good for you, her message said. Someone needed to say it. I called her. She answered on the second ring. I was wondering when you'd crack, Ashley said without preamble. I've been watching Aunt Margaret do this to you for years. Why didn't you say something? Would you have believed me? She had a point. You had to figure it out yourself. I'm just glad you finally did. We talked for over an hour. She told me about her own experiences with our family, the subtle ways they dismissed her choices and priorities. How she'd eventually realized that distance wasn't running away, it was self-preservation. They're going to make you the villain, Ashley warned. That's what they do when someone refuses to play along with the dysfunction. Let them. I was surprised by how much I meant it. I'd rather be the villain who knows her worth than the doormat who keeps getting stepped on. There's the backbone I've been waiting to see. My mother called the next morning, and the morning after that, and the morning after that. Short conversations about nothing in particular. What I was working on, how my house was coming along. Small details she'd never bothered to learn before. It felt forced at first, performative, like she was checking boxes on a list labeled "How to be a better mother." But she kept calling every single morning. The third week, she asked if she could come over. Not for any particular reason, just a visit. I said yes, though part of me expected her to cancel. She didn't. She arrived at my doorstep on a Saturday afternoon with a bag of bagels and coffee from the place near her house. We sat on my back porch, and she asked about the renovations I'd been doing, the bathroom tile I'd chosen, the paint colors in the bedroom, questions that seemed mundane on the surface, but represented something deeper. She was learning the geography of my life. I never knew you were interested in interior design, she said, examining the paint samples I'd spread across the patio table. I've been interested in it since college. I didn't say it with bitterness, just as a fact. I took 3 elective courses in it. Changed my major from graphic design to include it. She looked stricken. I don't remember that. You didn't ask. I sipped my coffee. Olivia changed her major twice, and you knew about it both times before she even filed the paperwork. I'm starting to see a pattern. She sat down her bagel, appetite apparently gone. Every time we talk, I discover something else I missed about you. There's a lot to catch up on. She spent the next hour asking questions. Real ones, not surface-level pleasantries. She wanted to know about my career trajectory, why I'd chosen my specialization, what projects I was proudest of. She asked about my friends, not just their names, but how we'd met, what we did together, why they mattered to me. She asked about my house hunting process, what had drawn me to this neighborhood, what my long-term plans were. It was exhausting and exhilarating in equal measure. Being seen after years of invisibility felt like standing in direct sunlight after living in shadow. When she left, she hugged me at the door. "Thank you for letting me try," she said. "I know I don't deserve your patience." "You're right. You don't." I pulled back to look at her. "But I want a relationship with my mother. So, I'm willing to give you the chance to earn it back." Work became a refuge during those weeks. At least there, I'd always been visible. My promotion to senior designer had come with new responsibilities, and I threw myself into them with renewed energy. The recognition I received there helped balance the emotional labor of rebuilding a relationship with my mother. Emily stopped by my desk one afternoon with 2 cups of coffee. "You seem different lately," she observed, settling into the chair across from me. "Lighter, maybe." I set some boundaries with my family. I accepted the coffee gratefully. It's been good. Difficult, but good. The birthday thing, she'd been at the dinner. She'd seen my face when midnight approached and my phone had stayed silent. Among other things. I pulled up the designs I'd been working on. "But I don't want to talk about family drama. Tell me what you think of this layout." She studied my screen, then looked at me with a small smile. "You're really hitting your stride. These are some of your best work." I feel clearer somehow. It was true. The anger and resentment I'd been carrying had taken up so much mental space. Releasing it had freed up energy for creativity. Like I can finally focus on what matters. Standing up for yourself tends to do that. The design project I was leading involved rebranding a local nonprofit. They worked with underprivileged youth, providing after-school programs and mentorship. Something about their mission resonated with me, maybe because I understood what it felt like to be overlooked, to need someone to notice you mattered. I poured myself into the work. The client was thrilled with my initial concepts. My boss praised my initiative. The project gave me something concrete to focus on while my personal life underwent seismic shifts. My mother started coming to my office for lunch once a week. At first, other people noticed. The receptionist would give me a heads-up call. Coworkers would glance over as we headed out together. But after a few weeks, it became normal. Just another part of my routine. During one of those lunches, she brought a photo album. Old pictures from my childhood that I'd never seen before. "I found these in the attic," she explained. I'd forgotten I had them. We flipped through pages of my life. Birthday parties I barely remembered, school events captured on film, dance recitals and science fairs and family vacations. In every photo, I was smiling. But looking at them now, I could see something else, too. A little girl constantly trying to earn attention in a household where it was distributed unequally. "You were always so independent," my mother said, studying a picture of me at age 7, building a sandcastle alone while Olivia played with other children in the background. "I thought that meant you didn't need me as much. I needed you just as much." I just learned early that asking for attention was pointless. The words came out matter of fact. So I stopped asking. That's heartbreaking. It was what it was. I turned the page. More pictures of me on the periphery. Always present, rarely centered. But it doesn't have to be what it is now. She closed the album carefully. "I want you to know something. I've been seeing a therapist. That surprised me. Since when? Since the day after your birthday. After our fight at your office. She folded her hands on the table. I needed someone objective to help me understand how I'd gotten so far off track. Why I treated my daughters so differently without even realizing it. What did they say? A lot of things I'm still processing. She looked out the window of the cafe, gathering her thoughts. But the core of it is that I built my identity around being needed. Olivia needed me constantly. Her struggles, her divorce, her anxiety. Being there for her made me feel useful, important. And I didn't need you the same way. You didn't seem to. So I told myself you were fine without me, that you preferred independence. She met my eyes again. But the truth is, I chose the easier relationship, the one where I could be the hero. Being there for you would have required more effort because you weren't in constant crisis. And I took the lazy way out. The honesty in her admission was startling. At least you're acknowledging it. My therapist helped me see that I was getting something out of being Olivia's savior. It made me feel good about myself, but it also meant I could avoid the harder work of building a real, balanced relationship with you. She stirred her iced tea absently. I'm sorry for that, for choosing the relationship that fed my ego over the one that required genuine effort. We sat with that for a moment. Around us, the cafe hummed with lunchtime conversation, office workers on break, students with laptops, the normal rhythm of life continuing while mine realigned itself. I appreciate you telling me this, I finally said. It helps to understand the why behind it all. Understanding doesn't fix it, though. She leaned forward. I know that. I'm not telling you this to make excuses or to rush your forgiveness. I'm telling you because you deserve to know that I'm doing the work to change. Real work, not just surface-level stuff. That conversation marked a shift. Her efforts felt less performative after that, more genuine. She wasn't just trying to be a better mother to check boxes. She was genuinely examining her patterns and working to change them. The family dynamics were slower to shift. Olivia initially resisted the new balance. She was used to being the center of our mother's universe, and sharing that space didn't come naturally. She called me one evening, frustrated. Mom canceled our shopping trip because she has lunch plans with you. She comes to my office once a week. You know this. I know, but I needed her help picking out furniture for the living room. This is important. Olivia's voice carried that edge of entitlement she'd perfected over the years. And my lunch break isn't? I kept my tone neutral, refusing to be drawn into old patterns. Olivia, you had her undivided attention for years. I'm not going to apologize for getting some of that now. It's not about apologizing. It's about... She stopped. A long pause. Never mind. No. Say it. It's about me feeling like I'm losing her. The admission came out small. I know that's selfish. I know I had more than my share, but change is hard. Okay. I softened slightly. I'm not trying to take her away from you. I'm just trying to get my share of the relationship. I know, she sighed. My therapist says I have abandonment issues from the divorce, and I'm projecting them onto this situation. You're seeing a therapist, too? A dry laugh. Apparently, her self-improvement kick is contagious. We're all in therapy now. Very progressive of us. Despite everything, I smiled. Maybe it'll be good for you. Maybe. Another pause. I'm sorry, by the way, for all the messages I sent in the family chat, for making you out to be the villain when you were just asking to be treated fairly. Thank you for saying that. I mean it. Her voice was sincere. I benefited from the imbalance. I didn't want to see it because seeing it meant acknowledging my own role in it. But you were right about everything. These apologies, from my mother and sister, would have felt hollow a month earlier. But they came with changed behavior, with genuine effort, with a kind of consistency that suggested permanence rather than performance. My father, David, and I had dinner alone for the first time in years. He'd asked me to meet him at a steakhouse, just the two of us. I'd been surprised by the invitation. "I need to make my own amends," he said over appetizers. "I watched your mother treat you differently, and I said nothing. That makes me complicit. You sent me birthday cards every year," I pointed out. "You never forgot." Low bar. He cut into his steak with more force than necessary. "I sent cards, but I didn't fight for you. When your mother would cancel plans with you to help Olivia, I didn't object. When she'd spend hours on the phone with your sister but barely ask about your life, I stayed silent." "Why?" "Peace." He looked ashamed. "It was easier to keep the peace than to rock the boat. Your mother was so invested in being Olivia's support system. Challenging that meant conflict, and I avoided conflict." "You still do?" "I know." He set down his fork. "But I'm working on it. I told your mother last week that she needed to balance her time better, that she'd been neglecting you for too long. We had our first real argument in 5 years. How did that go?" "Terribly." "Productively?" A small smile. She cried. I held firm. She eventually admitted I was right. "We're learning how to be honest with each other." After years of pretending everything was fine, the generational patterns were starting to make sense. My mother had built her identity around being needed. My father had built his around maintaining harmony. Both had sacrificed authentic relationships for comfortable ones. And I'd paid the price for their avoidance. "I'm glad you're both making changes," I said carefully. "But I need you to understand something. My relationship with you is separate from my relationship with Mom. She's doing the work, and that's good, but you need to do your own work, too." "What do I need to do?" "Stop being Switzerland." I met his eyes across the table. "You can't just be neutral when someone you love is being treated poorly. That's not neutrality. That's complicity. I need you to speak up, even when it's uncomfortable." He nodded slowly. "You're right. I've been taking the easy way out." "Yeah, you have." We finished dinner with lighter conversation, but something had shifted. He was hearing me, really hearing me, in a way he hadn't before. The family restructuring wasn't just about my mother anymore. It was about everyone examining their roles and choosing to do better. 2 weeks after my birthday, a package arrived. Inside was a lemon cake from the bakery across town, the expensive one that required ordering days in advance. A card was tucked under the ribbon, for the birthday I got wrong, and all the ones before it. "I'm sorry. I love you. November 14th. I won't forget again." I took a picture of the cake and posted it to Facebook. My mother commented within minutes. "Lemon for my November girl." The family text thread had gone quiet. Olivia had stopped sending essays about my character flaws. Aunt Martha had moved on to posting inspirational quotes on her own page instead of in our group chat. My father had finally sent me a private message. "Your mother's been talking about you nonstop, about all the things she didn't know. She's really trying." "I know," I'd replied. "But trying isn't the same as succeeding." "We'll see." The nonprofit project consumed most of October. I was meeting with the executive director weekly, refining the brand identity, creating marketing materials that would help them reach more families. During one meeting, she mentioned they were looking for volunteer mentors. "We always need people willing to invest time in these kids," she explained. "So many of them come from situations where they're overlooked, where adults in their lives are too busy or too overwhelmed to really see them. the parallel wasn't lost on me. I might be interested. I started volunteering the following week. 2 hours every Thursday evening, working with a group of middle school girls on a creative project. They were designing a mural for their community center, and I helped them translate their ideas into actionable plans. One girl, Imani, reminded me of myself at that age. Quiet, capable, constantly trying to prove her worth to adults who were too distracted to notice. She designed the most intricate section of the mural, but kept downplaying her contribution. "This part is really beautiful," I told her, studying her sketch. "The way you've incorporated the community's history into the design shows real thoughtfulness." She shrugged. "It's whatever." "It's not whatever." I sat beside her at the table. "You have talent. Don't diminish that." My mom didn't even look at it when I showed her. The words came out flat, practice neutrality masking hurt. "I'm looking at it." I held her gaze. "And I'm telling you it's excellent. Your mom's opinion doesn't change the quality of your work." Something in her expression shifted. Recognition, maybe, or relief. "Thanks." Working with these girls gave me perspective on my own situation. My mother's neglect had been emotional, not material. I had resources and opportunities that these kids could only dream of. But the core wound was similar. The ache of being invisible to someone who was supposed to see you. I found myself sharing pieces of my story with them. Not the specifics, but the framework. "I know what it's like to feel overlooked," I said during one session. "To feel like you're shouting into a void and nobody's listening." "How did you deal with it?" Imani asked. "I learned that my worth isn't dependent on whether people recognize it." I looked around the table at their faces. You can't control whether your parents or teachers or whoever give you the attention you deserve. But you can control how you value yourself. And you can find people who do see you, friends, mentors, community. You can build your own support system. One of the other girls, Sophia, spoke up. "But doesn't it hurt when family doesn't care?" "Absolutely." I wasn't going to lie to them. "It hurts like nothing else. But you can't let that pain stop you from living your life fully. You have to decide whether you're going to keep begging for scraps or demand the whole meal." They absorbed that in silence. These girls were 13, 14 years old, still young enough to hope their families would change, but old enough to recognize patterns of disappointment. I wanted to give them tools I'd taken 3 decades to develop. The mural project became a bright spot in my weeks. Watching these girls claim their creativity, assert their worth, support each other through struggles, it reminded me why I'd fought so hard to be seen in my own family. Because everyone deserves recognition. Everyone deserves to matter. Olivia called 3 weeks later. I almost didn't answer. "I owe you an apology," she said, and she sounded tired. "I've been thinking about what you said about Mom always being there for me and not for you. I never really noticed it before." "How could you? You were the one getting the attention." "That's not fair." But her protest was half-hearted. "Okay, maybe it's a little fair. I just assumed you were fine because you never complained. I shouldn't have to complain for my own mother to care about my life." "No, you shouldn't." She was quiet for a moment. "I called because I wanted you to know that I talked to Mom about how she treats you differently. She cried for like 2 hours, but she listened. I think she's finally starting to get it." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I've been a bad sister." The admission surprised me. I let Mom make everything about me, and I never questioned it. I never thought about what that meant for you. I just took the attention and ran with it. "Yeah, you did. I'm going to do better, too." She hesitated. "When's your housewarming party?" I never asked. "I haven't planned one." The truth was, I hadn't wanted to deal with the family dynamics, the inevitable comparison to Olivia's house, the subtle comments about my choices. You should. I'd like to see the place. If you'd want me there. I did plan it. 3 weeks later, a small gathering, close friends and select family. My mother showed up with lemon cupcakes and a framed photo of us from my college graduation. Olivia brought a beautiful plant for the living room and spent the evening actually asking about my renovation plans instead of talking about her own problems. Ashley drove 8 hours to be there, bringing a bottle of expensive wine and the kind of honest conversation I'd been starving for. My father, David, pulled me aside in the kitchen. Your mother's been different lately. Lighter somehow. I think she needed you to push back. She needed me to set boundaries. Maybe we all did. He glanced toward the living room where my mother was laughing with Chloe. She bought a calendar, one of those fancy ones with room to write things. She's been filling it in with dates. Your work events, coffee dates you've mentioned. She calls it her "Don't Be a Terrible Mother" calendar. Despite everything, I smiled. That's oddly sweet. She's trying. Really trying this time. He squeezed my shoulder. And I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. How much you needed us to notice you. The party stretched past midnight. My mother was one of the last to leave, helping me load the dishwasher while everyone else filtered out into the night. We worked in comfortable silence, something that hadn't existed between us in years. Thank you for inviting me, she said finally. I know I didn't deserve it. You're my mom. Of course, I invited you. Still. She dried her hands on a dish towel, then turned to face me. I need you to know something. I'm not trying to be a better mother because you embarrassed me on Facebook. I'm trying because I finally understood what I was losing, what I'd already lost. You haven't lost me. I almost did. Her eyes were bright with unshed tears, and that terrified me more than anything. The thought that my daughter might decide I wasn't worth the effort anymore. I'm not there yet. I took the dish towel from her and hung it up. But I was getting close. I know. She pulled me into a hug, and for the first time in years, it didn't feel obligatory. November 14th. I've set 3 reminders. Different alarms. I'm not missing it again. Good. She left shortly after, and I stood in my newly organized kitchen, surrounded by the evidence of people who cared. Cards on the counter. A vase of flowers from my coworkers. The plant from Olivia. Photos on my phone of friends who'd shown up. My mother's lemon cupcakes in the fridge. My phone buzzed with a text from Ashley. Proud of you. Standing up for yourself is hard, but you did it anyway. I thought about that forgotten birthday. The comment that had sparked everything. The public call-out that could have ruined our relationship, but instead became the catalyst for fixing it. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is refuse to pretend everything's fine when it clearly isn't. 6 months later, my mother showed up at my office with lunch. Unannounced, just to see me. We sat in the break room eating sandwiches while she asked about the project I was working on. She knew the client's name without me reminding her. She remembered that I'd been nervous about the presentation. She was present in a way she hadn't been since I was a child, competing with Olivia for scraps of attention. I have something for you, she said, pulling a small envelope from her purse. Inside was a birthday card. I found this at the store yesterday. It made me think of you. Mom, my birthday's not for 5 months. I know. November 14th. She smiled. But I saw it and wanted to give it to you now because I can appreciate you any day of the year, not just on your birthday. The card showed a lemon tree with birds perched in the branches. Inside, she'd written a simple message, for all the birthdays I got wrong and all the moments in between that I missed. Thank you for giving me another chance. I love you, Mom. I kept that card on my desk. A reminder that people can change if they want it badly enough. That setting boundaries isn't cruel, it's necessary. That sometimes the most loving thing you can do is demand to be treated better. November 14th rolled around again. My phone started buzzing at midnight with birthday messages. My mother's arrived first. Happy 31st birthday to my November daughter. I love you so much. Can't wait to celebrate with you this weekend. Olivia texted at 6 a.m. Happy birthday, sis. Let's do lunch this week. My treat. The family text thread filled with well wishes. Even Aunt Martha posted something that wasn't a generic inspirational quote. My father called while I was making coffee, singing off-key like he used to when I was little. My mother showed up at 10 a.m. with a lemon cake made from scratch. She'd called Chloe to get my favorite recipe. She'd spent hours baking it herself instead of buying one from the expensive bakery. The frosting was slightly lopsided, and one layer was taller than the other, but it was perfect in its imperfection. Happy birthday, sweetheart. She set the cake on my kitchen table. Same date for 31 years. How could I forget? We ate cake for breakfast. Just the two of us in my sunny kitchen. She told me stories about the day I was born, November 14th, 1994. How it had snowed unexpectedly. How my father had gotten lost driving to the hospital. How I'd arrived 3 weeks early and scared them half to death. Details I'd never heard before because she'd never taken the time to share them. I'm glad you called me out, she said, licking frosting from her fork. I needed someone to hold up a mirror and show me what I'd become. I'm glad you listened. I almost didn't. She looked at me seriously. I was so angry at first, so defensive. I wanted to be the victim. But then I thought about all the birthdays I'd made special for Olivia. All the ways I'd centered her life over yours. And I realized you were right. It wasn't just about the birthday. I know. It was about years of making you feel invisible. Years of acting like your accomplishments didn't matter as much. Years of putting you second without even realizing I was doing it. She reached across the table and took my hand. I can't get those years back, but I can make sure the ones ahead are different. And they have been different, in small ways that add up to something significant. Phone calls that aren't just about Olivia's latest crisis. Visits that aren't squeezed between other obligations. Interest in my life that feels genuine rather than forced. She's learning who I am as an adult instead of assuming she knows because she raised me. Olivia and I are closer. Now, too. The distance between us had been built on inequality, on a dynamic where she received everything and I received scraps. Now that our mother treats us more equitably, we've found common ground. We have coffee every other week. She asks about my work. I ask about her kids. We're building something real instead of performing sisterhood for our mother's benefit. The Facebook post is still up. My mother's comment about October. My reply about November. I thought about deleting it, moving on from that public moment, but I keep it there as a reminder. Not of the hurt, but of the courage it took to say something. To refuse to let another birthday pass unacknowledged. To demand better from people who claim to love me. Sometimes people need the mirror held up to their faces. They need to see themselves reflected in the consequences of their actions. My mother needed to see publicly that she'd forgotten her own daughter's birth month. That shock, that embarrassment became the catalyst for change. I don't regret the post. I don't regret the comment. I don't regret any of it, because that moment of standing up for myself led to a year of standing up for myself consistently. Of refusing to accept crumbs when I deserved the whole cake. Of building relationships based on mutual respect rather than obligation. My birthday is November 14th, same date for 31 years. My mother knows that now. She'll never forget it again. But more importantly, she knows me now. the woman I've become, the life I've built, the person I am beyond my role as her daughter. And that's worth more than any birthday celebration. What does being truly seen mean to you?